do before you became a writer?
Full-time in the United States, about 15 years altogether. Before I became a writer, I was a computer programmer and a systems analyst working for oil companies and investment banks.
Our guest is a graduate of the University College London. We go to San Mateo, California next. Hello.
Hello. Is this me?
It is you.
All right. First of all, I want to say to Mr. Derbyshire that you're definitely a brave soul for taking all this abuse. I'm a black man. I'm 28 years old, and I actually really want to explore the generational gap that I've been experiencing. Our own parents are afraid of us, and with good reason. We're constantly, from what I see, we're constantly searching for a cultural identity, and it's really the result of the legacy of slavery. I urge everybody to look up Willie Lynch on the internet, and he talks about the systematic structuring of slavery and in turning the black women against us, and against black men. And it's something where you created an animal, and now you don't want to deal with the animal, but if the animal is only getting worse every generation, it's gotten to the point now where the animal is ready to kill its parents, its grandparents. It doesn't care about anybody now. It doesn't care about going to prison because there are 1,000 more animals that are getting born every day. You know that black people are breeding more than white people, so this is constantly happening. More and more and more are coming. And it's something where it's like if you don't deal with it, if you don't try and fix it, it doesn't matter how many prisons you build. I've rolled with the thugs. You can't take us down. You can't take us out. You can take us down, but you can't take us out. And it's going to get to a point where it's going to be bigger than anything you ever imagined, especially if something like Hurricane Katrina happens again. You saw what happened. The thugs hit the streets and were like, busting Glocks and shouting about how much they can't wait to take out anybody. We'll rape your daughter. We don't care, And so it's like, it's something where this animal was created, And that's really where the whole legacy of slavery is like you're really seeing the result of this animal. And it's something that, the pastors don't understand, our own parents don't understand. Everybody's scared, but it's a reality. And for you to say that white people just want to move on, you can't move on because we'll come to your house. You know what I mean? Like it's something that's bigger than you could possibly imagine. And for you to be here, I tell you, walk these streets, but see for yourself. It's nothing that's as simple as saying, well, you know what? As we're drinking coffee in our fancy offices, we can say, oh well, that was too bad it happened. Back in the day of slavery. No, it's something that will come to your doorstep.
All right, sir, thanks. Mr. Derbyshire.
I don't take prophecies of doom very seriously at the best of times, and I don't think this one's going to fly. Yeah, there's a lot of anger there, but if this guy's going to blame this, if this speaker is going to blame it on slavery, I got a question for him. How come you're so much more angry than your parents when they're a generation closer to slavery than you are? You know less about slavery than they do. They may have heard it from their great-grandparents. By the time you got into the world, their great-grandparents were dead. What do you know? I don't buy his theory that it's getting worse generation by generation. In some ways, it's getting better. America now has a large body of cultured and civilized and hardworking and productive black middle-class people. You go to a city like Atlanta, lovely suburbs, beautifully kept, and the problem is this hardcore underclass that we got a glimpse of, as the gentleman reminded us, at the time of Hurricane Katrina. But just to get on board with his fantasy for a moment, my guess would be that if the confrontation that he envisages ever came about, those prosperous, comfortable, successful, middle-class blacks, of whom there are now millions in America, would be on the same side as me, putting down that rebellion.
Louisville, Kentucky. Good morning.
Yes. I would like to say that there is still slavery in America, although it's legalized, and we cannot go back and forget our heritage because that was our heritage. But in the prison system, there's legalized slavery. That's why so many of our black boys are in the prison. And we would like to know, I would like to ask Mr. Derbyshire, who do you think bought the drugs over here, and why were they bought over here to the United States? They were bought here to make us work, make black people work longer hours.
When did they do that, caller?
It was in 1843. It was on the American History Channel called Legalized Drugs. If you was to look at that program, you would see why the drugs was bought here in the first place.
Mr. Derbyshire?
Well, just let me pick up on the phrase work longer hours. A few years ago in New York City, I had a conversation with a person who I guess you'd have to call a racist, who just didn't like black people and said how awful and lazy they were and didn't want to work. And I actually left that conversation and went out into the street in New York City, and I went past the Omni Hotel, which had been refurbishing itself, big hotel in Manhattan, been refurbishing itself for some months, and had just finished the refurbishing, and they were hiring staff. And there was a line of people round the block, a couple of thousand people standing on line all morning, hoping to get a job at the Omni Hotel. And you know what? 95% of them were black. They wanted to work. So don't tell me about, you know, I want you to work longer hours. I'd love to do anything to get the black unemployment rate down. I know lots of black people want to work and they can't find jobs. And one reason they can't find jobs, and one of the most baffling things in modern American politics, is that they're being undercut by these hordes of illegal immigrants who unaccountably the federal government allows in to work for below minimum wages, so that unskilled people, like those people I saw online around the Omni Hotel, can't get jobs. I don't know why black people aren't up in arms about illegal immigration. And I don't know why the Democratic Party, which is supposed to be the party of black Americans, isn't yelling at the top of its voice against illegal immigration. I think I do know, but we'll leave that for another time.
Murfreesboro, Tennessee, you're on the air.
Yeah, just wanted to say it's very refreshing to hear someone who can speak factually about the problems, and I think what rubs people wrong is they're been used to having things said to them through the media in sensationalized ways, and just hurts people's feelings. You know, we all need to be sensitive about what we say and things, but I feel like I feel a lot the difference than 10 to 15 years ago. I'm 31 years old, and just seems like the country's getting worse and worse about accepting the lowest common denominator. We're always going to have problems, but if we keep bringing up things negative that happened in the past, I have a African-American friend, quite a few actually, and some of them we agree on things and some of them we don't, but we both have a bondness to each other that no matter what we each think, we're going to listen to each other. So for whatever that's worth, that's basically what I wanted to say. We just need to move on and try to come together on things. And
all right, thanks, caller. Mr. Derbyshire.
Yes, I heartily endorse that. Let's try to come together. This is my country now. I've got 2 American-born kids. I want them to grow up in a society that's prosperous, stable, at ease with itself, and that accepts all citizens equally. That's what I'd like. That's what I'd like for my kids to grow up in. I say again, black Americans going around with this image in their heads that white people go to bed at night and dream of stomping on their faces. Nothing could be more wrong. There's tremendous goodwill out there. I think, as I said at the beginning of the program, there's also a lot of despair, because none of the nostrums of the last 40 years really seems to have done much good. There's still a lot of goodwill, and Americans want to be Americans, and they want to embrace their brother and sister Americans. But I do think, I say again, if you're going to base your own life, your own personality, or your collective life and your collective personality on something dark and negative, you're not going to succeed. Can I just say, Brian, do I have time just to say something?
Sure.
Just a story from the British Isles. When I was growing up in Britain, the Irish had a huge resentment against the people of mainland Britain. People of Southern Ireland, which became independent in 1922, had a huge resentment against us, and there was a whole academic industry of blaming Britain for Ireland's problems. And that went on for decades, and Ireland got poorer and poorer, and more people emigrated, and nothing went right, and the government got more and more corrupt. And then around 1980, the country started to turn around. A new generation came up and said, oh, let's forget all about that old stuff. Or not, let's forget about it, but let's put it in its proper place. Let's see if we can build a prosperous country as a member of the European community. And they did, and Ireland now is booming. It's a wealthy country. When I first went to Ireland in 1969, there were barefoot kids in the streets of Dublin, the capital. It was like a third world country. Now it's like going to New York or Los Angeles, a modern country. So I think a change of attitude, a collective change of attitude, not forgetting the evils and wrongs of the past, but putting them in their proper place. It did wonders for Ireland. I think it could do wonders for Black America.
St. Louis, Missouri. Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Derbyshire, you made a statement that if the African-American Black community had more support, that they would not be committed to prison or arrested for crimes if they had the support that the white college students had. What kind of logic is that? If you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're dealing drugs and using drugs, whether you have support or not, you should be, you should be arrested and do your time just like anyone else.
I do agree with that. However, it's a fact of life that if you're a college kid and you have two parents who've been married for presumably 20 years or so and have some kind of stable home and some background of steady income, when you get into trouble with the law, you have more options than a kid who was raised by his mother, or nowadays we even see by their grandmothers, and nobody else, with nothing in the background but welfare. It's a sad fact, but it's true. You are going to have more support, and you're going to have more of a voice. Why would Black Americans not want to have that kind of support? Why would they not want to have that kind of voice? Why would they not want to have the same kind of resources behind them? Family resources, entrepreneurial resources, educational resources. Why would they not want to have the same resources that white college kids have? If they did, they'd be more fairly treated. I do agree with you on that point. But why don't they get their act together and get that support? It's not so difficult. Get married, stay married, graduate from school, get a job, keep it. It's not difficult.
Last call for our guest from Frederick, Maryland. Go ahead, please.
Hey, good morning. I am African-American. I just wanted to comment and say that I think the silver bullet in all of this, I don't know if it's been mentioned or not today in the story, but I think it's out of wedlock birth rates. I mean, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, Asians are 15%, whites 26%, Hispanics 30%, African-Americans 62%. I think that pretty much sums up every statistic you can look at socially, from the bell curve to incarceration rates.
Why do you think the African-American rate is so high?
There's a lot of debate as to what it is, but I think it's just simply culture. I think culture, there needs to be a change. I'm not too fond of hip-hop music right now, and a lot of other cultural messages that are going out there that don't necessarily, stress working or being a functional part of society.